and now stars in a new supernatural reality show. Is that true? Awesome. Let's see. This show documents paranormal cases around New England, and it showcases paranormal investigation groups and paranormal enthusiasts. Ladies and gentlemen, Cody DeBaines, I'm sorry. And in addition to his published books, his research has been regularly featured in print and broadcast media over 20 plus years of his career. He's the author of New England, Ghosts of New England, Vampires of New England, Ghost Ships of New England, and was a script consultant on a PBS documentary, Ghost and Vampire Legends of Rhode Island. His research on New England's haunted history has been featured on television, on radio, and in print for many years, including programs on the Discovery Channel and the Travel Channel. Ladies and gentlemen, author and researcher, Christopher Rodina. Another gentleman, I did all the gentlemen in a row. This next gentleman is the author of EVP, Electronic Voice Phenomenon, Massachusetts Ghostly Voices. He's currently the EVP specialist with Bay State Paranormal Society and a guest member of Nightwalkers Paranormal Society. He's made numerous appearances on internet and hosts podcast radio programs and hosts his own cable show called East Bridgewater's Most Haunted. He continues that with massive collection of over 4,000 audio clips with each recording session. And he's working on his second book, ladies and gentlemen, EVP specialist and author, Mike Markowitz. This husband and wife team, I'll let you never guess who those folks are, is regularly called upon to assist individuals in dealing with alleged malevolent paranormal phenomenon and potential inhuman infestation in homes. Together they have more than 40 years experience as paranormal investigators. The male half of this team has been featured on Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters as a consulting demonologist, and both he and his wife are four members of the Atlantic Paranormal Society. The pair are co-founders of New England Anomalies Research and host a local television show dealing with paranormal topics called Ghosts Are Near, which airs locally in Rhode Island on Cox and Verizon systems and is also online. He is the author of the Paranormal Realities book series that chronicles his experiences as a paranormal investigator. Books 1 and 2 have been published, and subsequent books are in the works and are due for future release. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith and Sandra Johnson. This gentleman has been researching the paranormal for the past 25 years. Along with his wife, they have traveled and investigated all over New England. He is the author of the Haunted Rhode Island book, Haunted Massachusetts, and Haunted New Hampshire. Ladies and gentlemen, paranormal investigator and author, Tom D'Agostino.
He said, well, me and the team got you a little something. So.
This young lady has studied with many great mentors, including Maureen Hancock, and has been asked to share her gift for the wellness retreats at Hope Float's Center of Growth and Change and Uplifting Connections and Collective Souls.
Wait, I'm on TIFF.
Having a firm understanding of energy, she has been able to dedicate herself intuitively. She allows her intuition to take the wheel and receive messages from loved ones in the spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, spirit medium and Reiki master. Awesome. Tiffany Rice. She's the founder of Beyond the Veil Research and has appeared on the Animal Planet series The Haunted and Finding Bigfoot. She has also appeared on the Travel Channel series Most Terrifying Places in America. I didn't know who came to my house. Ladies and gentlemen, paranormal investigator Dina Palazzini. And last but certainly not least, this gentleman has been researching unorthodox subjects and investigating reports of unexplained occurrences for the past 3 decades. Beginning with a research team under the auspices of the Rhode Island College, plus his association with parapsychologist Ed and Lorraine Warren. He was a member of the Atlantic Paranormal Society for 8 years and has appeared on Sci-Fi Channel's series Ghost Hunters. He has also been featured on episodes of the Animal Planet series The Haunted and the Travel Channel's documentary Most Terrifying Places in America. It's been in my house too. Ladies and gentlemen, demonologist Carl Johnson.
Next year, absolutely damn.
Our first question comes from Steve in Franklin, Mass. Steve, you here? Steve, wherever he is. He wants to know, what's your opinion on ghost hunting on television? Do you feel it has helped or hurt the field?
Here we go.
Anybody care to take it? That's a loading question. Anybody?
Go, Tiffany volunteers.
Can you guys hear me okay? All right, sorry.
You can find
Thanks. My personal opinion on that, I think it definitely exposes the whole idea of paranormal and ghost investigating. However, it's helped it in the sense of exposure, and I also think when it comes to reality TV, like I mentioned in my lecture, I feel like there's a lot of producing that goes in, as far as making it reality. So I feel like reality is more producer TV than reality TV.
Anybody else? Cody?
Just to add on to what Tiffany said, I think as soon as all the paranormal shows started to come out onto television, it definitely got the word out there. Paranormal groups, I haven't been in it but a long time, but I've definitely looked back into the past. There were paranormal groups, but now that the TV shows have come out, there are thousands of paranormal groups that have been created over the years. And I wouldn't say all of them are reputable. Like if you give somebody an EVP recorder or an EMF detector, they're going to call themselves a paranormal investigator. I'm going to say maybe 20% of the paranormal teams out there are actually into it to help others and to find answers to their questions. So I definitely think TV influence by getting the word out there. In some directions the right way, in some directions the wrong way.
And I'd like to say, of course, having been involved many years before these shows manifested and having been involved in the process of reality TV too, there is an incredible amount of pressure involved with these TV shows, obviously, because when we were with TAPS, of course, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, we were, of course, led to believe that when we did get our reality show, it was simply going to be what we do as investigators. It was just going to be a TV crew around us, and we were going to be ourselves. And we found out once we did become involved with reality TV, it was a whole different story, totally different, because there was just so much pressure to constantly put out, and you have to try to get results. And I'm sure every one of us in this room knows it's not that easy to you don't just go out and get results. I mean, unless you live in a house that's the Amityville 12 times over. And I have known people that have lived in houses like that, but very, very rare. So yes, as you guys were saying, it has brought awareness and made people less afraid to come out and speak about it. But also, it gets way out of hand, the incredible pressure to constantly produce a show. And would you like to comment?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add, in a nutshell, it's helped people to know how to get in touch with someone who can help. Number one, but number two, there are also presentations of some bad examples on how to investigate. So obviously, everyone in this room knows, what is what to go with, and what's are the bad examples that I'm talking about: provocation, unnecessary provocation, etc. Anyone can add.
I'd just like to add that there are a lot of pitfalls definitely associated with paranormal TV, I'm not going to lie. But there's one very positive outcome in my world, certainly, is as Keith, like you, I've been doing this since before paranormal was in vogue. And one thing that's been great is that once upon a time, I remember how hard it was to get a historical venue to cooperate. And because of the sort of sexiness of the new paranormal reality, I have to say the one thing that I don't I don't find fault with is how many of these places are willing to let you in the door now. And that's one nice bonus that's come with some of the downsides.
Well, media is a double-edged sword. I am not only a researcher and investigator, but I'm also a journalist. And I won't know one thing, and that is what media wants you to see, they will put out. So being on television as much as it is and out in the mass media, it becomes something that people are no longer afraid to talk about and no longer afraid to express themselves. But at the same time, you can't actually just take it as or take it like not as a hard fact.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question. Sue from Oakham, Massachusetts. I see you, Sue. Hi. From Lighthouse Paranormal. What are you most afraid of on an investigation?
Bringing it home, I guess. Because at that point, you don't have a choice. You have to deal with it. And then you have to figure out how to get rid of it. So that's, for me, that's probably the biggest fear, that you got something you need to get rid of.
I'm not going to lie, the thing I'm most afraid of on a paranormal investigation is boredom. I often think I wish I had my Game Boy with me, because I got to tell you, there are some long hours just sitting around waiting for something to happen. Please possess me, because really, I'm bored to tears.
The one thing I'm most afraid of is tripping and falling and spilling my beer. No, getting hurt, definitely, in the dark.
Somebody else afraid of anything? You afraid of anything, Sandra?
Boredom part, yeah.
Well, I just think, especially dealing with families, because we're called into a lot of private homes and everything, and sometimes you don't know what situation you're going into, and you don't want to do harm at all. You don't want to do more harm than good. And most of the time, it is a positive experience. Most of the time, but
Clients. Most of our cases are not locations; they're client cases, and this is not really a fear, but clients who won't pick up the ball when we leave and follow our advice. It's so helpful when they do, and not when they don't.
Actually, I would like to totally contradict what Keith and Sandra Johnson have just said. No. No, actually, I very much want to agree. Sandra pretty much stole my thunder and said what I was going to say. Probably said it better than I would have. That a concern, not so much as of a fear, is that people will handle it in the wrong way when we've intervened and tried to help a resident, a family, that sometimes they won't follow the advice. And we've had this common experience that sometimes they will do just the opposite of what we advised, that they will try to challenge the invasive spirit by themselves. They might try to take it into their own hands, and then we hear, well, everything went wrong after you people left, and on the follow-up we found out that they probably challenged it, provoked it, spoke to it, did all the things that we advised them not to. Personally, as far as being afraid of something, I think the only thing as far as spirit manifestation I'd be afraid of is, I'm still afraid of closing a bathroom mirror and seeing a figure looking at behind me. That still spooks me. I've seen it in the movies. I haven't had the personal experience, but that's kind of, there's no way to prepare for that.
That's what you get for watching movies. Anybody else want to comment on that question? What are you afraid of? No? Yeah, I think boredom is the biggest one. I have to agree with Chris.
Because you only have a few minutes to experience the fear. You've got hours from boredom.
That's right.
Plenty of time.
That's right. This comes from Tammy. Tammy, am I saying your name right? Ozga? Thank you. She's from the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group. She wants to know, what's your opinion on orbs?
Okay. Let her know if we were coming. Okay. All right, Dave.
I think a lot of it, people mistake it as dust or water particles. Some of them could be real.
One thing I noticed with the new digital cameras out, the focus on the cameras, they like to focus in right with the dust. And when the flashes, it really creates a nice shape. And yeah, so I guess that's one down point with using the new cameras, digital cameras. That's just one thing I noticed with them. Yeah, sure.
We get pictures of orbs all the time, and I do believe it can be psychic energy. Most of the time it is not. I'd say 98% of the time it's not, but very rare. But we have seen them with the naked eye. I have, and they can be reproduced in the laboratory as energy. And so I believe psychic energy does take a spherical form, like a soap bubble, because of the energy surrounding energy. So I do believe they exist. Rare to be photographed genuinely, but they do exist.
I've experimented. Well, somebody else want to answer the field? Okay, well, I've experimented with it a little bit. The Hockomock Swamp that we engaged in a TAPS investigation of some years ago. I took a picture of a transformer on a power line, and we didn't get any notable paranormal activity that night, but I noticed a spray of orbs around that transformer. So I think sometimes they are genuine energy containment. As Dina mentioned, sometimes they can be seen with the naked eye. I discount usually when people say, do you see the skull or do you see the face of the orb, because it can be very vague, and unless it's something extraordinarily definite, it's probably not worth the time analyzing it. If you're familiar with the terms matrixing and pareidolia and simulacra, it's your mind's ability to impose a familiar formation on something that's indistinct. For instance, Cody. If you look at Cody long enough, you're going to see Kevin Spacey about 30 years ago. So, but at first you may not notice, but then you look more, and then, yeah, kind of got a Kevin Spacey thing. That's matrixing. That's pareidolia. So now you're stuck with it.
Orbs are one of those interesting things. I have had the opportunity to film them. I filmed them in regular light with non-infrared cameras. I've seen them. Once in a while I still see them. I actually had one go into my right eye one time, and as it went into the slit of my closed eye, it striated on the other side. Extreme bright white light. You know, it jumped up out of bed. Whoa, 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 what was that? I do have some incredible footage of orbs that change shape in front of the camera. You can see it actually changing as it's a round ball and it changes shape. Something of a project I got to get into when I don't have any more time. But there's something intelligent about the way they move. You know, just some of the captures that I've seen, moving with some kind of intelligence, going around things, moving in through doorways, going around your body, checking you out, and then taking off. When sometimes they should just go by like dust particles would. Why are they moving in this direction and then going in the opposite direction and so on? Unexplained. You can't measure it. You can't do much with it. You just look at it and kind of draw a conclusion. But it's probably going to be a long time before we figure out what the heck an orb is. The real orbs. There's a big difference between dust particles and a solar-lit, self-illuminated ball of energy that you can sit and you can watch move around. It's a big difference, but I have no idea what it is.
Orbs don't equal 10 ghosts.
10 orbs don't equal 10 ghosts. That's a good one.
I thought orbs are those mythical creatures with the teeth like this and they carry giant battle axes. Oh, orc. Oh, no.
Norse.
I'm in the wrong place. Oh, Arlene and I have actually seen orbs and actually counted them in the Houghton Mansion as they flew by us. You can actually see an orb. If you take a picture of something and you can drop that camera fast enough and it's still there, that's a real orb. I agree with Kevin Spacey. Sorry. Digital cameras now with their automatic zooms, they zoom in on the first thing that moves, and a lot of time it's dust or water particles.
Okay, yeah, but she didn't bring the
I just want to say that although I've never seen an orb in real life, I've always said that it's entirely possible that there's something paranormal about them, but as many of these people have said, it's certainly probably a very rare occurrence. And what I'm happy to hear a lot of support on is the sort of the backing away from the orbs as a constant, you know, people constantly posting pictures of them. It's nice to see because as I spoke about when I was on stage earlier, it's just the discriminating eye. It's the idea that you have to debunk before you claim something is paranormal. And so that way maybe we can find out what the true orbs are, but until then we do have to keep in mind dust and bugs and pollen and all that kind of stuff. So.
If we beat the orb subject to death? Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, I think it's a great little topic to talk about.
If I had to say right now,
I think I agree with
say
everybody on the
yes.
panel here about the same thing. Okay, next question comes from Danielle, in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Danielle, are you here? You didn't put down what group you were with? Or, I don't know. Anyway, her question is, what's your take on cryptozoology?
Say again?
Do these creatures actually exist?
Depends on what creature you're talking about. Chupacabra, Loch Monster.
It just says
Bigfoot does
cryptozoology.
exist. Seen them. I've never seen the other things, but I wouldn't mind.
Billion years old and have not evolved in that time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I overheard a conversation not too long ago with a father talking to his very young children, and the son was trying to convince his father that Bigfoot was there's a reasonable chance he existed. And the father was obviously trying to be nice about it, but was still trying to convince the kid that Bigfoot couldn't exist. And so I had to stop. I did. I stopped and I said, are you familiar with the coelacanth? And the coelacanth is a lungfish. It's a large, heavy fish with sort of vestigial, or actually proto-bones in its flippers. It can walk on land. It can live for hours and hours outside of the water. And they believe it's the missing link between, well, one of the missing links between fish and lizards. It's an amazing creature, and it should have been extinct millions of years ago. And in fact, we have lots of fossils of it, and we assumed that it was extinct millions of years ago until in, I think it was probably in the 1930s or 40s.
1938.
Oh, very good. There you go. See, I was right in the middle. I'm psychic. One was caught in a fishing net off the coast of Africa, and once it was discovered what this thing was, it pretty dramatically impacted the study of extinct creatures and what might exist and might not. And an odd little fact that you may not know about is that the discovery of the coelacanth was the inspiration for the scriptwriters of The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
It's interesting that with cryptozoology, and the name is very descriptive, you know, cryptozoology, the study of unknown but purported animals, every once in a while, they hit pay dirt, every once in a while the researchers will find that something is real. As the coelacanth, which was a total enigma, supposedly extinct for 30 million years, and then it, you know, they found them. And it might have been about 70 million years, since the time of the Cretaceous. They were supposedly extinct. And Chupacabra, one of the favorite cryptids, it's not quite proven, but it's virtually certain that some kind of canine that's not, it's not a wolf, and it's not a jackal, it's not a coyote, but it has properties of all those animals, but it's unique. The Chupacabra has been filmed, it's been cited numerous times. They have a carcass preserved and a head preserved. It's probably real. It's on the verge of being classified and confirmed. The giant squid used to be the kraken until it was found, until some started washing up on shores. So cryptozoology at least has a certain percentage of legitimacy as a study. Every once in a while something is found and it keeps people interested in what has been reported, seen, photographed, but not yet confirmed. And of course, cryptozoology covers Bigfoot and everything from Bigfoot to the Loch Ness Monster. What hurts the pseudoscience of cryptozoology is the hoaxes. Just as with paranormal research, and it's actually a branch of paranormal research, because it was found that the surgeon photo from 1933 at Loch Ness was actually a hoax. You know, a doctor had hoaxed that famous, what looked like a plesiosaur photograph of Loch Ness, but yet there are some compelling photographs of what might be out there in Loch Ness, or what once was. Another facet of cryptozoology is, after a while, if they are legitimate animals, if they are physical things, eventually they're going to become extinct, probably. And then they can't be confirmed unless when somebody finds a carcass. So cryptozoology gives you something to go out there and look for.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else in the cryptozoology?
Tiffany has much to say about cryptids,
I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it to myself. I'll let you guys do my mind.
which makes it even more fascinating.
You mediums, you're all like...
Warwick, Rhode Island, we have two legends. We have the Mothman. It's been seen around Creighton Cemetery, and we have the legend of Okey Pokey of the Oakland Beach waters in Warwick. So right at home, right, Dave?
Right down the street from me.
Okey Pokey has been... Can you just tell me a little bit about Okey Pokey? Because I don't know much about Okey Pokey. I know something. I know what you've written about him, but... No, there's this... it's kind of a lake monster or a sea monster. It's a sea monster, saltwater serpentine thing that's been seen in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Yeah, no proof, but multiple witnesses.
We don't have monsters in Warwick.
It's another one of those trans-dimensional creatures, like the Rhode Island Bigfoot, going from dimension to dimension.
Comes in and out. You're not going to find it.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
don't have a habitat for that sort of species here, but that could
Well,
be an
actually, yeah,
explanation.
for Bigfoot we have a few things. Okey Pokey, I don't know. It invites a lot of speculation. I'd like to think we have a lake monster out there, or an ocean monster. I mean, why not? It's a coastal state. There's got to be something out there.
Yeah.
Okey Pokey.
Yeah, that's right.
Is he like a
Dave, you live right
plesiosaur?
there. Any signs of Okey Pokey?
No,
He's a sturgeon.
I've only seen Iggy's with the clam cakes and chowder down there.
Dave has only seen
Really
Iggy's.
really good stuff. Hey, yeah, there's a plug for Iggy's. It's good stuff. Jim from Rentham, Mass. He's here, he says, but I'm not sure whether he's here. He has a question. He says, what's your favorite piece of equipment to use during an investigation? Your most favorite.
Okay. I was actually doing a show with Tiffany, and you know, I learned that the best piece of equipment to use is your body, because all the equipment is almost off of your body. You know, the EMF extends your hearing. You know, that's a prime example. But you know, if you walk into a room and close your eyes and just stand there, not even close your eyes, just sit down and listen and feel, use your senses. If there's going to be a temperature drop, you should be able to feel it. If you're going to see something, you should be able to see it. I mean, if you want to see an orbit, it should be there. And your body is a very unique thing when it comes to the paranormal. It definitely feels the emotions. I mean, I walked into something that I believe was demonic, and you know, you just feel this pressure over you that you know you want to be contained inside of a little bubble. And you know, spirit definitely has emotion and definitely makes you feel different things. So I would say my favorite piece of equipment is my body, and I just realized that a few weeks ago. So definitely my body.
I'm a pile of rocks. I'm not sensitive at all. You know, it's got to be something really, really bad for me to sense something. To be honest, I think maybe audio recorders are probably my favorite piece of equipment, because that's what I have good luck with, capturing things. I work with this guy who scares everything away pretty much, and you know, these days we're not able to get anything, but we used to be able to get really good EVPs, so that would have to be my favorite. I don't know.
I was just going to say, use your intuition. Every one of us has it. You just have to use it. That's all.
Mine's pretty simple, any piece of audio equipment. Pretty much everything I've ever used to record with, it works. It picked up voices. I recorded one on my cell phone, recording a train going by, because I was curious what kind of low frequencies were involved in that, and so I just took advantage of the opportunity, recorded the train as it went by, and as soon as I hit play and I listened to it, I hear this man say, "Murder!" And you hear the train go by. I'm like, you can't get away from it. I think once you get tied into it, it's always there. But any really good piece of audio equipment, anything is possible with EVPs. They're always going to come forth. And I also believe the body as well. I think it's a combination of it, because I think what makes that veil thin is each one of us makes the veil thin. It's your recognition of what it is, and bring that in closer to you, your EVPs will go up, as well as your sighting and your clear audience and all the rest of it. All your senses become more aware once you get closer to it, but you have to make that veil nice and thin. And by listening to EVPs over and over and over and over again, your brain starts to rewire and says, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this now. And some of your abilities. So definitely your body, and also really good audio here.
I think, just briefly, going old school, I think far and above my favorite tool for paranormal investigation is the tried and true Ouija board. When you put your hands on that planchette and see it dancing over those letters, I mean, you've got some authentic spirit communication, and you know what? Ouija boards, they always tell the truth. So, you know you got it. I just wanted to see everybody's face change and see your expressions. I was making that up. It's not my favorite.
Well,
They creep me.
nothing has ever been better for me than my good old trusty sawed-off shotgun. If you can't see it, shoot it. No.
Somebody has to be more radical than me, huh?
I agree that the best paranormal tool you have is yourself. I mean, way before all this electronic equipment, these people went out and they were still looking for ghosts. I mean, even way back as far as Shakespeare writing about ghosts. What did they see? What did they feel? It had to have been from what they experienced in their own senses.
I'm going to pretty much spin off from what a lot of you have already said. My brain, my good common sense, or at least as good as it is. But as a great example, last fall I was at a historic site doing an investigation, and for the first time ever in person, somebody used the flashlight method. Now, if you're not familiar with it, as I think a lot of people are, but you take a flashlight like a mag light, you turn it to just barely before it engages, and you lay it on the ground, you ask it questions, and it'll flick on and off, allegedly, in response to, a ghostly presence. And I was fascinated. It was working. It was right there in front of me live. No one was touching it, and so I was pretty fascinated. Until after a while watching it, I thought, I don't know, this seems too regular, it's too consistent. So after a while, instead of asking questions or in any way considering it a paranormal, I just started counting. I just started counting seconds. And I found that if I completely ignored it, I didn't know what the ghost thought it was telling me, but it seemed to be telling me that every 33 to 35 seconds it liked to turn the light on. And every 40 to 48 seconds it liked to turn the light off again. And I don't know whether that meant the ghost was math obsessed or possibly it was heat expansion within the light. So yeah, I consider in a ghost investigation my common sense and my brain to definitely be my favorite tool, because I don't want to be fooled. I want real evidence, because real evidence is awesome. And if I let myself be too easily duped just by my enthusiasm, I don't know. I don't come away with as good of a quality of an investigation.
I don't mean to double dip, but one thing that we found to be very valuable was Arlene is a gifted tarot card reader. And we have found that by using the cards, we were able to field a lot of questions where we have got EVPs or later studied the research upon these answers that became factual. And so I find it an amazing thing that this very old source of communication is known by all.
Yes, I just want to say one thing. Arlene is also a very talented photographer as well. And it's important to take a lot of pictures. And the most you can come away with is nothing. But we were at a haunted abandoned mill site, which I'm familiar with, Ramtail. And Sandra felt she heard somebody walking in back of her, and she didn't sense it, she just literally heard somebody. And she was videotaping, and she said, I don't think I'm getting anything. Nobody answered. She turned around, nobody was there, so she quickly took a picture, and a plasma light came out. Our associate in NEAR, Christopher Finch, who's in the military, he was at a house in Albany, New York, private residence, and he suddenly felt like overwhelmed with energy. It was like surrounding him, so he just said, quick, somebody take a picture. And course, a bunch of shooting lights appeared around him in the photograph. So it doesn't always produce something, but it doesn't hurt to take that picture either when you feel something might be around.
Right, at Dina's apartment in Woonsocket, a couple of years ago, Dina said, quick, take a picture. So I picked up my new Sanyo camera and took a picture, didn't question. I took several pictures. In the first picture, right when she pointed and said, take a picture, there was this swirling mist covering the picture. Now, she wasn't smoking at the time, and you know, I tried to rule out any photographic anomaly that could manifest or smoke or anything. There was nothing. And we do see orbs in that apartment. We saw one in Slaterville last night, and if we had taken a picture of that orb, I'm sure it would have come out. But in the picture in Dina's apartment that I took 2 seconds later, there was nothing. The next picture, nothing. Just in that one when she said to point. So it's good to be quick on the draw, even if you have some basic equipment with you, like a little digital or analog audio recorder, or any digital camera or film camera. Keith mentioned Ramtail site. About 4 years ago, Keith and I and some of the TAPS team, and NEAM members now, were walking up a path, and I heard a bell toll in the background, but it was 9:45 p.m., and there was no reason for a bell to toll 3 times. Then I realized I had my analog tape recorder in my pocket, and I didn't have it going at the time, which might have just been interesting to me, because it was this distant bell, and I asked around. I tried to find out if there were any churches or any bell that could have tolled that would have made such a sound, and there aren't. So it was probably something like an auditory manifestation, but interesting nonetheless, because I vividly remember it. I'm done now. Yeah, you done now? She said.
Anybody else's equipment? No? All right, going back, I just wanted to say one thing on the digital photograph, the digital cameras. A lot of them come with energy-saving features. Shut it off, because it'll turn your camera off. Okay, you want to always be ready for that one shot that you might get. All right, here we go. Next question. Sally, where are you? Sally Bagel. I see you. Sally from my group wants to know, how big of a role, if any, does empathy play in ghost hunting? I'm going to hit, first one I want to talk to is Tiffany. On that.
Tiffany.
Yeah.
You can have 2 microphones.
That's your area of expertise.
Do you mean as far as myself going into a room? Or do you mean as if I was to go in and do a reading on a room?
Just your feelings that you're, like if you're connecting with somebody else. Yeah, I guess your feelings.
Right, okay, I just wasn't sure if you meant mine or the person that I'm picking up on.
Well, actually it is the person that, because you'd be...
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm acting as a conduit, so I would pick up on the emotion at times of that person, depending on, it doesn't have to be sad or angry. A lot of times I get a lot of happy moods, a lot of happy times, so it's not just categorized just because something is considered haunted. It doesn't need to have a negative connotation towards it. It could also be something very positive as well. So yeah, it does come into play a lot for someone like me, because I am opening myself up to receive messages from objects, and not objects, but other beings.
Right. Do you think that it could, sometimes you could get the reading from the person's house? I mean, the individual persons, that they are there?
I've been to places where they wanted me to do a reading on a particular building, and once you open up that door, you open up the door for anybody. So I always say, a lot of times something personal might come up, even though I'm at a mill. Just be aware that something personal could come up for each and every one of you. And in that particular case, in most cases, something personal always comes up. And I just always ask people to just jump in and let me know if it's for them or if I'm picking up from the mill, because sometimes it's hard when you get a cross connection like that to distinguish who exactly it's for.
How do you prevent yourself from being emotionally overwhelmed in situations like that, though?
Well, I always do the power of protection, so I'm always channeling in whatever's for my highest and greatest good. So I can usually go for a lengthy period of time until I get to the point where I'm drained from it.
Right.
So emotionally, as long as I keep a mindset of this isn't my emotion, it's their emotion, and I can just cut it off. So it's setting boundaries as well.
Okay. That's a good point, setting boundaries, because some people who are sensitive or empathic do tend to get overwhelmed by feelings, so that's what I advise people, there has to be a cutoff point where you're not just going to let yourself be drained.
Well, I want to bring something up, and I'm going to talk about a reality show. But this is actually not the one that I was bringing up before. It's another one. It's another medium show on the Travel Channel. But anyways, well, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this particular medium seems to take on the role of the person. And again, I feel like it's producer TV instead of reality TV. However, I always tell people, if that ever happens to me, just slap me. But it's one of those things where when you see it, I feel like it's more producer than the actual being, because I know, speaking for myself personally, I don't have to, I get that sensation, but I know that it's not my sensation, and there's no need for me to reenact that person's sensation. Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah. Exactly. So, I think it's played up a lot. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just like any reality show. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. Like, I'm not going to turn into, your grandmother. I'm not going to. I might tell you how she is or the personality that she has, but I'm not going to turn into your grandmother. Or in the case of the reality show, I'm not going to turn into some criminal or someone who wants to kill everybody, but that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Anybody else on the empathy question? Dina? I know you've had some experience with the empathy thing. She said it all. Okay.
Well, I wanted to ask those persons who are particularly empathically gifted, what do you feel about channeling? I mean, is that totally something to be avoided? I don't put a lot of stock in it myself. The examples I've personally witnessed, I think the human mind is a remarkable tool, and it can create a personality, even if that person who's channeling is being sincere about it. It's also a good attention-getting device for someone, but sometimes it's authentic in the sense that the person accepts it, believes it, but the human mind can make another personality for a while. It's like in a dream state. But is there ever any value to channeling a spirit, bringing it into someone and letting it manifest and speak through you? Ever?
No, I don't practice that.
Well, I had a situation, yeah, exactly.
Like I said, I only pick up on personality traits. Exactly, which I'll say, was she kind of, regimented in this way, or was she funny because she's kind of joking around? Right, exactly. So it's not
angry once in a while. I go into certain places, I get angry, and like as soon as I walk out, I'm fine.
Mr. Keith Johnson, did you not personally, without mentioning names, did you not witness a remarkable example of channeling during a case one time? Someone who actually does this professionally.
Oh, yes, yeah. And
what was your opinion of this channeling episode? I think you were too kind to really drop the ball and expose him, but
well, it is an interesting situation. I'm glad I recorded it on audio, but yeah, it was just he was just going with the flow, and came a massive contradictions, and it was interesting. The personalities that manifested, though, was we were very entertained by it, actually. But back when I was around 17 years old, I was, something I wouldn't do now, obviously, but I was actually, getting into the paranormal investigation. And I did some experiments with another teenage girl about channeling. And we seemed to be hitting on something, but then she started having blackouts and losing time, and she couldn't remember where she was. So we figured it was... Yes, it was a paranormal. Yes, it was paranormal.
Yeah, we picked up, I was a teenager and I was experimenting with a teenage girl, so we all sat forward to listen where this was going. How revealing are you?
No, it was paranormal. It wasn't paranormal. It wasn't Sandra either. I hadn't met her yet, but yeah, paranormal. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't.
It's called off-roading.
Sorry.
I
think you've said it all, Keith Johnson.
Yes, yeah.
And more.
But it can be very dangerous. It can be very, very dangerous. It has its inherent danger, so.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. I still have about 5 more here, so and we've only got like 15, 20 minutes left. So let's pound these out one after the other. What's your best experience using dowsing rods, if you've used them at all?
Myself in Sylvanus Brown House, which was built in 1758. It has been relocated to Slater Mill site, has been there since 1962. I've had some remarkable experiences with those. What's interesting about the dowsing rods, and that's about as old school as you can go, we don't know why or how they work, but they do have some consistency when I've used them and others. And I was in the Sylvanus Brown House directing an investigation, actually for the Ghost Tour program, and I was downstairs in the kitchen area, and I could not get the dowsing rods to move at all. And I've had that experience actually in Fall River at Freetown State Forest at a convention we were at 2 years ago, and I was trying to demonstrate the dowsing rods. They would not move at all. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, to me this makes them all the more authentic because they don't always respond. In the meantime, I'm trying to think them into moving. Come on, come on. They just would not. And in the kitchen of the Colonial House, Sylvanus Brown House, they would not move in my hands, and I tried for 10 minutes, just about to give up, and I lit a candle down there. And when I extinguished the candle, they started to swing in my hand, so then they worked after that. I don't know how much my subconscious could be influenced in them. Sometimes they just won't move at all. I've tried to experiment and see if it could be impulses from my hands. Does not seem to be. They will work for some people they don't seem to, or not consistently, but they're actually demonstrating a code. Something of a code is emerging where different configurations have different meanings, and they're very interesting. I've had good experiences with them. Not scientific, what really propels them. It's hard for me to imagine a spirit actually going into these rods and moving them, but there's something to them. Can't discount them. I use them and I find them interesting. Not conclusive, but interesting. Anybody else with dowsing rods? Tom, dowsing rods.
Well, I'm not very good at dowsing because I have the shaky Italian hands. But my wife is a gifted dowser, and I've seen her work them, and I'll tell you what, she always says that it's the energy around you. And she's actually found her keys in the freezer, actually, where she lost them using the dowsing rods looking for them. So she's, the biggest experience was finding her keys so she could go to work in the freezer.
A practical application. So your wife, before work, grabbed the dowsing rods and found her keys.
Yes.
That's why she was at work then.
And you know, she's a gifted dowser. She always, she's really good at it.
She is. I've seen her demonstrate them, and she is a very talented.
I usually poke myself in the eye, but...
That's why we don't put sharp tips on them.
I got nothing.
Okay, anybody else on the dowsing rod question? Okay. All right, now we're gonna play a little game here. We're just gonna look for a one-word answer from everyone. Okay. What rule or guideline should every experienced or inexperienced paranormal investigator follow while exploring the unknown? Go right down the line. One-word answer.
Don't whisper when you're doing an EVP session, please.
No whisper. Truthful. Objectivity.
Protection.
What kind? No, I'm looking.
Well, there's all different kinds.
It goes back to the water thing, right?
Again, I'm on paranormal and pregnant. I'm not pregnant, for the record.
You don't have to be pregnant to get on that, huh? So I could get on it too. Okay, well, the one word, yeah. Honesty.
Closure.
Yeah.
Safety.
Sense.
Snacks.
Snacks, there you go. Good answer. How many people bring snacks, by the way?
My wife makes brownies for everyone.
Awesome. I'm coming on investigation. Beer and brownies.
We know Dan Culkin does.
Yeah, Dan Culkin, where are you? Where's your snack box?
He doesn't know what we're talking about.
Dan brings a grocery store to each investigation. Thank you, Dan. He always has a nice selection. Okay, next question. Todd from Woonsocket. wants to know, what's your scariest experience with malevolent spirits or demons?
The DMV. Actually, mine would be when we were actually smashed in the face at the Tortilla Flats in Merrimack, New Hampshire. I was coming out of the bathroom, and there was no one behind me, and you could see down the hall, and the door, it's like a football player, hit this door and pinned me between the door. We had been sitting in the place where the guy had hung himself that we were doing the story on, and when I went to the bathroom, I came out, that's what happened, and I couldn't move this door. It was as if someone had just like seized it there, and then all of a sudden it just flew open. I walked back to the table, and Arlene goes, "What happened to you?" My face was bleeding, it was cut wide open.
I've never really had an experience with anything I would consider malevolent, but a fairly recent experience that I had involved a ghost that I was tracking with electromagnetic field detector, and when I sort of lost track of it as I was trying, because the signal was moving, I eventually was forced to conclude where the highest signal was right in my face. And although I don't consider the thing malevolent, I know, considering the circumstances, that it was probably angry, maybe not at me, but I was there. And my hand started to tremble so bad I couldn't hold the EMF meter anymore. I actually had to like put it down, and that was actually terrifying. I'd never been terrified by a ghost before, but I was terrified.
I've had several. The first one was being strangled by a big hand, like 3-4 times the size of a normal human hand, on the throat. Attacked during sleep. You wake up into reality, into consciousness of being attacked. It's very different than any other dream state. It's like an out-of-body experience. That's very unusual. I've also had again, a type of strangulation, doing some provoking. I figured I'd try it. It was a bad idea because I felt this pressure on my neck and my head, like it was being squeezed. And you could tell something was wrong, something's not right. And the whole next week, lots of feelings of fear, anxiety, like you're really in some big trouble. Something bad is happening to you, but you don't know what it is. It took about a week to figure out what the heck it was. And I kind of made, the decision that, well, geez, it had to have been that reaction that I had while I was screwing around. And when I felt that squeeze, that must have been it, that something got into me. It wasn't very good. And my wife was like, geez, what the hell's wrong with you? You're just wacky, And after about a week, I kind of said to myself, that's what it was. And very quickly, it left and everything was gone, coming to recognition of it. But there is a type of physical reaction that you can get. I don't know if it's physical. I mean, some people get scratched and hit. Tom got the physical reaction from the doors slamming into him. Psychological damage is scary because how do you get rid of it?
Keith and I are always asked this question, and I never know how to answer it because I don't feel that emotion on investigations, even during clearings. So I never know how to, I've had things that are very disturbing happen to me on investigations and during clearings. As Keith and Carl will both remember, there was an investigation and clearing that we did where there were lots of items being thrown, and Keith and I were performing a blessing/clearing on this home, and a plate was thrown and nearly hit both of us and smashed into the fireplace behind us. As far as a malevolent entity actually causing fear, I try to remain very objective. I don't know. You think of any times I've been fearful?
No, that's why I have you as my backup, because you don't get afraid. But my most terrifying experience was I was still a teenager, and it was our first in-home investigation, and it was the first time I used religious provocation and received instantaneous results.
but by the grace of God was able to maintain control of the situation. And I'd say that in a nutshell is the most terrifying right there.
I've never really experienced anything that was demonic or negative in any way, as far as anything directly happening to me.
I think it would probably be something that kept me there transfixed for what seemed like a long time, was probably only half a minute, was a boy who was overtaken by some personality. I saw his body. I heard him screaming and I heard him smashing in his bedroom. I was invited to stay the night and observe, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, I heard thrashing and screaming. I fumbled for the living room light. I was sleeping on the sofa, and this boy's body, he was 14 years old at the time, came careening out of his bedroom, spinning like a top and banging off of the walls. And it's just something I couldn't react right away. I just had to observe. But that kept me transfixed. One more thing, probably the scariest thing I had happen, which before I was more used to spirit manifestation, if you ever get used to that. I was in my parents' house and I had set up a room in the basement, and I had just shut off the light, but it was still light enough to see in there. And I heard shuffling around in the corner of this basement room, and then the form of a woman walked by me. This was long enough to observe it and have that chance to realize I was seeing something not of this world, that I was seeing a spirit. She was a woman dressed in clothing of maybe a century before, and most spirit manifestations are pretty brief. This one I had a chance, and it happened a couple of times after. I watched her walk in front of me, approach me, walk in front of me as if she didn't see me, and then keep walking into the wall. She disappeared into a curtain partition. That was terrifying at the time. Of course, now I want it to happen again, but it happened a couple of times after that.
I have to say, I've never done the dude run.
I probably my only demonic experience I've ever had was on a case, and I just witnessed a man's eyes turn black, like somebody had died, put ink in his eyes. You couldn't see the white of his eyes, and his hands were just shaking. And then I was actually holding the camera that night, and then I left the room. And that was probably my only demonic experience that I've witnessed. So that's definitely burned into the back of my head forever.
That's something you'll remember.
Oh yeah.
How do you separate the paranormal drama from exposing fabricated evidence?
Try to keep it short. For me, when I see fabricated evidence, it's the lack of evidence for me that does it, or it's the evidence that they give you. It's often one and the same. If you see something that, for instance, there's supposed to be a child running around this house, and his name is Billy, and then all of a sudden you hear, "My name is Billy!" Well, of course, isn't that what's reported? Anytime you see exactly what the report is of this particular haunting, be captured as evidence, time and time again. But they don't show you the conversations between the spirits that are having, that get caught on those recordings. All that other stuff that they don't show kind of says, okay, well, obviously there's something going on here. Or the claims that voices are coming in frequencies that they don't have in that kind of thing too. It can also lead you to think, there's something fishy going on here.
I'm usually polite and don't say anything because I'm sure someone else will.
And I'm the guy that will. When you see something that you're fairly certain, and I have to stress, fairly certain is fabricated, a hoax, or is simply a misunderstanding, I think the most important thing is to be gracious about it. If you try to call somebody out by accusing them, that never goes well. The best thing to do, even if you're fairly certain that they're full of it, is to say, I see this and I tend to believe that this could be this instead. Perhaps you're mistaken. You want to always at least pretend that they may have been mistaken, because that allows somebody who has performed a hoax or is mistaken to graciously step down, or at least to agree to disagree. If you call somebody out on it, that's just usually not going to go well. It's ungracious and it's unproductive. So I say at the very least, if you're going to expose somebody, do it with dignity and grace, courtesy.
I very much agree with Chris's approach, because if you want to speak to somebody about it, it's best to approach it judiciously, and don't put it on Facebook first and then talk to the person.
Anybody else on that topic?
Just to add, if it's a client who you think is presenting something as real that you know is fraudulent, it's a cry for help either way. That these people need your help. Whether, you know, it's a cry for help. And we have definitely experienced that over and over again.
Any other thoughts? Comments?
I agree.
Okay. Well, what do you think, folks? How'd they do? I want to thank the panel. Thanks for being so kind to me. I hope I was moderating well enough for you. Even though, where's Ken? Ken DeCosta, where are you? You hiding? Is he outside having a smoke? Ken DeCosta has left the building. Ken decided to ask me to moderate for you folks a couple of months ago, but I still don't remember him asking me. But it was my pleasure. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm sure everybody else did. So if you want to get your photos, get them now while they're all together. If you guys want to hang out for a few minutes on stage, everybody can get a photo of you. Are you getting itchy? You got to pee.
Valerie, take pictures.
Okay. All right, thanks, folks. Appreciate you hanging around. I tried to keep it for an hour, and look at that, we're right on time.